Hi, Judith Reidy here at the Creative Zone. I am excited today because we are going to be continuing our series on uh, the uh, homeless vet and the hope that I hope to give to other vets as I explain the story. But we're also going to be talking about a painting and how we can paint that painting. And so, a little bit to show you this. Let me undo this a little bit. So, we have this image that we were working on, and I did a project. I'm trying to come up with a color scheme for the project. And so that was my goal today. And I want to share with you how I went about doing that. Because you see, with the image that I have, it's elongated, but I wanted to really emphasize the simplicity and a little bit of drama. It's not particularly a gay or happy image, so I have to be careful the colors that I select, and yet I don't want it to be uninteresting, the forms and shapes. So I had to create, I made a pattern, a design, as you can see. Let me see, I'll go back to that, where I have three large shapes. I have three white spaces. I have a whole series of three things in here, three plants, three everything, and they're placed in a restful area. Not the whole image is not covered. It's got certain areas that are quiet and certain areas that are full of energy and excitement. And so that's the underpainting is what you were looking at. And today I'm going to start talking to you about how I'm going to go about designing the color scheme or the colors I want to use that really not only will accurately reflect the values, but they will also reflect the message that I want to communicate. So let's look at that right now. Let's look at that right now. And I'll begin. Okay, we're going to look here and we're going to start. By showing you, I've got the wrong image here, unfortunately. Let's see here. I don't understand. Oh, I'm sorry. We had a little bit of a glitch here. And I don't know what happened, but I think I've got it working for you now. And I think this will work really well. So anyway, the whole idea was compassion for the homeless vets, a story of hope. And so I had talked a little bit when I constructed this underpainting about the stories of different vets. But today we're going to talk about how we can prepare the color palette for the vet with the correct values and in keeping in mind the message. Now already by the underpainting we're suggesting certain values. But one of the things you have to be careful of is that you don't change your values while you're working over the painting. And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing is showing you another way that you can match your values while creating your hues and also keep in mind the message. So let's look at this and see. Now, what kind of color scheme will keep with the mood? You know, would I want something very bright? Would I want something very colorful? You know, if I, for example, if I'm preparing the color palette for the values and the messages, do I want this to be a real sunny scene? Now, this could be turned into a sunny scene depending on the white areas and how I paint them. If I paint them kind of a cold white, it may seem like, or a grayed white, it's going to give a different mood than if I have a yellow white. Now, when I say yellow, I don't mean yellow. I mean a white that's warmer. I could suggest sunlight, or I could suggest an overcast day, and that will affect the values, especially in the sunlit areas. That is particularly safe. Now, the question is, do I want it to be bright yellow? And if I do, that might give it a mood of warmth and happiness, because we associate warmth and happiness with a sunny day. But if we have an overcast day, that may be a little bit more depicting what the meaning of the message is here. So that is going to influence what I select. And as I said, you can see there's areas. I have 3 large mass areas, and I have basically 3 white areas. And if you look carefully, I have 3 plants, and also the man, the homeless man that's in the center, has 3 bags with him. So it's a good repetition of idea and concept that is depicted here. But the question is, what kind of color scheme will keep that mood? And I think I'm going to lean on a monochromatic color scheme, which is what I have already. But here it's just made with like a burnt umber, excuse me, and white, and not even white, just burnt umber. But a monochromatic, and so in a sense I already have a monochromatic color scheme. But I'm going to do one which is typically a monochromatic color scheme, would be with one hue and then black and white. So we're going to, what hues can I select for this particular color scheme? I'm thinking of using yellow as the one hue. Now you're thinking, whoa, that's going to make it bright. It could, and you'll see why at the end it won't. And then black and white. And then one of the reasons I'm picking yellow is because you can mix yellow with black and you can create a kind of green. And we have those plants in there, and I thought the plants could have some kind of green. Plus this is a veteran, and the veteran, that kind of green, that earthy kind of green, is very much camouflage. It reminds you of a veteran to a certain extent, especially if someone is in the army. So I thought that would be a good color as well. So let's go on. And I decided to start with, when I did this, I laid down tape, and in making squares, and I decided to have 5 values from black to white. I have black, dark gray, medium gray, light gray, and white. And those were the colors. And as you can see on the palette, I have mixtures of each of those values of black and white. So that was how I started. And then I also made the cadmium yellow, which you can see. And the cadmium yellow is on the, I painted that all in on one side. Next, I wanted you to see the grayscale, and where does the cadmium yellow, how does it compare with the grays? Remember, we had, and it actually looks very much the same as the light gray. So we know what value the yellow is that we're working with. The other thing, now we're taking and mixing the values, the different hues, mixing yellow, cad yellow, medium with black. And you can see I've created 3 additional hues, and they go from medium, light to dark. And you can see the green that I have there and the different kind of green. And you can see how it's similar to the yellow and how the colors relate to the other gray in that we had originally mixed. Now I also had cad yellow, medium, and white, and you can see there we have several different values of or temperatures of yellow, and as it moves into the white it becomes cooler, and as it is closer to the original cad yellow medium it's warmer. So that, when I was talking about the sun and the temperature, that's what we're talking about here, is temperature. Leaning towards the white makes it cooler. So let's go ahead and look at some more. Now here you can see there virtually the value changes that are occurring. Then I mixed cad yellow, medium, and light gray, and you can see the various value temperature changes, how it bends towards green and a little bit more on the darker side. And you can see how similar they are, though, when they are not, they're only in grayscale. And that's because the cad yellow medium and a light gray are the same value, and when you mix them together you're going to basically stay in the exact same value, except they are actually, the hue is going to be a different temperature. It may be warmer or cooler, but they're still the same value. A warmer temperature tends to come forward, whereas a cooler temperature tends to recede backwards, even though they're the same value. As you can see, they're the same value. So that's part of your consideration if you want to have things move back and forth in space. Now, the next one, as I mixed, was cad yellow, medium, and dark gray. And there you can see more greens, and we'll look at the value structure, and you can see the value changes because they are different. The cad yellow medium is a much lighter value than the dark gray, and so you are going to get gradations. You also have some temperature changes and warmth on the yellow end, of course, and a little cooler towards the green. But let's go on. We're going to go back, and now we're mixing the cad yellow medium and the medium gray, and you can see the changes with that. Now let's look at the gray. That is pretty close, but not quite the same. And so we're going to go on to the next. Now, I am actually going to try a different yellow. I tried yellow ochre, and you can see the yellow ochre on the side, and it is a more of an earth tone. It's not as intense, excuse me, as the cadmium yellow medium, but it is also commonly used and mixed with black to create variations. I wanted to see what would happen with that. And as you can see, it also is very similar to the light color, but the light gray. So, but I don't, one of the problems I see that I'm having here, so I'm going to switch over the palette. I'm having a little bit of a problem with glare. And I did mix the yellow ochre with black, as you can see, and it's a little hard to see, so we're going to flip it over. And here it is in grayscale, but now you can see it better at the top of this one. But here at the bottom, I've mixed yellow, ochre, and white. And you can see the changes. It's a lot cooler as we get closer to the white. And then you have a yellow, ochre, and dark gray. And we have yellow, ochre, and medium gray. And here we can see it in grayscale, and it almost, they really got mixed pretty much the same. And then we have yellow, ochre, and light gray. But I was very intrigued by the blue grays that were created. And I actually really am glad I tried mixing the yellow, ochre, and light gray, because I did get some really interesting color mixtures that I didn't get with the cad yellow light, medium. And so I'm really kind of excited about using, that I did use the yellow ochre, which you would never have known had we not mixed them. And here you see they're very similar across the whole area, just like with the yellow ochre. Now, this seems pretty bright now that it's all done and the yellow, the black stripes are removed, and for my scene that I'm talking about. And I don't, you know, if I used a lot of the oranges and yellows at not the oranges, but the yellow ochres and the cad yellow mediums at the ends, it would be a bright painting. But I'm looking at those middle values with maybe touches of those lighter areas. And that would really influence the scene. Now, of course, I can have more mixtures, everything in between the different grays, the different greens, but I can see that I have a lot of choice and variety to select here. And I could do a lot of different work. I could assign the blacks and the grays and the blue grays to the pants. I could use some of the greens. I could use some of the brighter greens in the some of the highlights of the leaves. There's a lot that it can be done, and I think you're going to find this is a really interesting palette, even though it's basically yellow, black, and white, though I do have two different yellows. I want to keep it with the message. If I pick the bright, sunny colors, the painting is going to have a different feel than if I pick the colors that are near the middle. And so I'm really interested in using some of those grays, those green grays, the yellow greens. And had I not mixed these, I wouldn't realize the potential that I have here. Now, of course, when I'm painting these were all painted opaquely, these samples. If I paint them transparently over the brown that I have here, I'm going to even create some more color variation. But so I actually have brown, which is you know, kind of, it's an opposite in a certain way of some of these the ochres. And so I think to select the right option, to select, now that I've mixed the colors, and I have a good idea of all the variety that I can get, and there's many more that I could have mixed. I've got a good idea of where I want to go and what I'm going to assign colors to. And I see that I could use grays, I could use blue grays, I could use the deep greens, blacks. There's lots of different colors that I could use. So, in summary, what values and hues to select? Consider your message. What is your story that you're wanting to tell? if the story is about sunshine and flowers, you wouldn't use a lot of grays. But if you're a little more somber in your story, you're going to want to use something with a little more grays, a little more neutrals in there. And then you also have to consider the value structure that does tell the story. You want to have something that has contrast, that grabs the reader, that grabs the viewer, but you also want to have something that keeps that tone in place that you want to keep, that feeling. Because color and value really tell a lot about the feeling you want to create. Now, consider what hues you could support your story with. I could have picked blue and gray and black and white, and that may have worked too, but it would have been a little tricky with the leaves. So that was one of the reasons I stuck with the yellow. If I picked red, that would have worked, but it wouldn't have worked with the leaves. So I wanted something that would work with the plants and yet also work with the people in the image here. And I considered a monochromatic color scheme because it seemed relatively easy to keep the value structure and the color temperature that supported my message. So when you prepare your color mixtures, you do that to test their variety, to see what you could get. Now, wasn't that interesting what we could get with the yellow ochre? It was different than what we had anticipated. Yes, and so you can see how I worked with that and how I was able to create the hues, and actually you can start almost feeling the colors and how they could work with this painting. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is we're going to be doing the actual painting in the coming weeks. We're also working on some portraits. We're going to alter between the two because they're oil paints and they have to dry in between the way I'm working here. And so we'll soon be coming back to this and painting this, and then we'll also be coming back to the portrait we've been doing of Marilee. So for today, I want to talk to you, those of you who are really interested in learning more about color. Maybe all this talk in color and you didn't know how to mix color. I have an excellent course called 7 Essential Simple Tricks to Mix Color, and it really will help you to know what color to select and why you select the certain colors and why certain colors, when you mix them together, are not giving them the hues that you are thinking of. I give you in this course a warm and cool of each primary, and then I tell you how to mix the secondaries with from those primaries so that you can either have a very intense and brilliant secondary, or by selecting different primaries, you can get a more subdued secondary. I also talk about other ways of altering the hues by making them into tints, tones, and shades, some of which I showed you today, how we made the tints of the yellow, or the tones with the grays, or how I made the tones, the shades with the yellow and mixed the various greens. All of that, you get a thorough understanding of that in my 7 Essential Simple Tricks. Plus, I talk about complements and how to make colors vibrate, how to keep them so that they glow, and how to not have them glow. So there's a lot in 7 Essential Simple Tricks. It's very reasonable. I suggest you take a look at it. And you should know every week I am here every Tuesday and or Thursday around 2:30ish, and I'll be back with more soon, and you can learn more about color mixing, about designing a painting, about what it means, how to create, how to get your message out there and communicate it with color and value and line and shape. And just, I really know that you're going to like this. So make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe. If you're seeing me on Facebook or YouTube, whatever, do the same. And please make comments and tell me what you think. Tell me what you'd like to hear. So that's all for today here at the Creative Zone. Happy painting, and I'm glad you